Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. So for the last 5 years or so, Destiny 2 has been bugged by a persistent mystery. Who is Nezarec? The name has only appeared a handful of times in the lore, but because it appears on one of the most popular Warlock exotics in the game, it's really stood out. Nezarec's Sin is the helmet in question, and it's a helmet that specifically attunes one to void energies, giving you faster ability regeneration when void kills are obtained. It also describes someone or something called Nezarec. This helmet was the beginning of our mystery 5 years ago, but where it leads us more recently may be something that helps us to properly crack open the mystery of who Nezarec is. So, let's start at the beginning. What do we know about Nezarec from Nezarec's Sin? Well, the lore tab tells us the following. He is that which is an end, and he shall rise again. Passage from Of Hated Nezarec, a pre-Golden Age text. He is that which is end, that which covets sin, the final god of pain, the purest light, the darkest hour, and he shall rise again. When the guiding shine fades and all seems lost, he will call to you. Fear not. All he offers is not as dark as it may seem, for Nezarec is no demon, but a fiend, arch and vile in ways unknown. He is a path and a way, one of many, and his sin, so wicked, so divine, is that he will never cower when dusk does fall, but stand vigilant as old stars die, and new light blinks its first upon this fated eternity. Passage from Of Hated Nezarec. This is the first time we saw any mention of Nezarec ever, and the nature of this being has troubled and evaded us ever since. Nobody is easily able to decipher what Nezarec is, but it seems clear that there is a touch of evil or malice to them. Maybe not the same kind of evil or malice or even darkness that we know, given the way that he is described as the final god of pain, which is the purest light and the darkest hour. The passage almost seems to double down on this twisted divine imagery by telling us that Nezarec will stand as old stars die and new lights blink their first. I was never really sure what Nezarec was for a long time, but long ago, when I first read this, I assumed there had to be some kind of malicious presence within the void that feeds off pain and suffering. The second mention of Nezarec was in passing. When Forsaken and the Drifter arrived on the scene, we saw the introduction of new lore that investigated the Drifter and his nature. These investigative notes were made by none other than the wielder of the last word, the gunslinger himself, Shin Malphur. He mentions the Drifter and talks about how he consistently spouted strange rumors about where he'd been. Some of it must be true and some of it must be lies, but none of it is clear. It's from here that we get our second tantalizing note of Nezarec, with the following passage. By chance, he and I crossed paths in a neutral setting. Didn't give me his name, just called himself a Drifter. Told him if that's how it was, he could call me pal. He laughed at that. Got comfortable. Got all kinds of open about where he'd been, what he was hauling. Even dropped a tip on where an old friend of mine was hiding. I still wonder if he knows who I really am. He told me he left the system as soon as he was risen. Not immediately sure. Had to get his bearings, find a ship, get it fit, get it flying, but soon as, he was good as gone. Drawn to the outer, he says. I can appreciate. He says he's seen the deep side of Jupiter, been to the core mines of Saturn, name drops old myths no one's heard, the Luvial Crux, the shift chasms below Elios, the fourth tomb of Nezarec. Goes on about the idols of Lower Sol, the treasure of Exodus Prime, the solar engine of Dead Star 6. I think he's making most of it up, but he's got relics and etchings, he's got materials not of this system, odd metals, obsidian flames, thought engines, edible null cakes, and a stuffed something that looks like a rabbit biofused with a cephalopod. He keeps all of his stuff to himself, his gets, he calls them. If they're for show, they put on a great one. But to what end? A renegade's observations of a drifter. We know for a fact that the drifter has visited various locales that aren't necessarily within our system or within the star charts of places we know, and has found a number of mysterious entities, places, and strange beings far out in the darkness, tainted with dark energy. Whether the drifter is telling the truth or not is unknown, but the mention of the fourth tomb of Nezarec is bound to have caught the eyes of many. This truly didn't add much to anything with our investigation, but the drifter talks as though it's an established set of locations, though we know nothing of any such tombs in any other records. It may simply be that the tombs of Nezarec don't exist, or they could be an integral part of the story going forward. For years it seemed that the trail had gone cold, but then something happened in this season that changed all of that. Nezarec was name-dropped on a weapon. Not just any weapon, though. A glaive. That might seem like nothing at first, and I'd understand that being everyone's first instinct, but glaives have a chronology in Destiny and a history to them that really helps us to place them within the narrative. Guardians have only been wielding glaives for about 3 months as of this point in time, and it's all thanks to the actions of the Witch Queen Savathun that we even have one. Their design is specifically based upon Rulk's own weapon, Lubre's Ruin, a glaive of distinctly Lubrean design, and something that has been stolen from his mind by Savathun and given to us, something that could only be shaped by the relic on Mars. Any glaive that existed before our first glaive, the Enigma, is likely to have been tied in some respect to the influence of the first disciple of the Witness, Rulk. And so this is where our clues really start to come together. Take a listen to the lore tab from the new glaive, which tells us all sorts of hints to start working from. Rise, disciple, and bear this gift with pride. Rulk, disciple of the Witness. Wisps of soulfire swirl amid the geometric growths of stasis that jut from the dusty cavern floor, the sundered remains of Hive Knights and Thrall frozen within the crystals. Detritus of the recent battle crunches under Eris's boots. Ahead, the stark angles of the lunar pyramid rise before her. Red phantoms hang in the air and shimmer like specks of dust against its enormity. Raising her Ahamkara bone to her lips, Eris blows across its surface as if she were extinguishing a tiny candle. The world around her blurs and bends, and then she is elsewhere. The heart of the pyramid. A veiled statue towers over Eris, vaguely feminine in form, though she is not convinced of its apophenian silhouette. She raises her soulfire-shrouded Ahamkara bone again. Stasis encrusts its surface, much as it had years ago when she first harnessed such power. Eris turns to inspect the vast interior of the pyramid. It is quiet. It is dead, not unlike the one in Savathun's throne world. Her eyes narrow. She clutches the Ahamkara bone in her hand again, and she is elsewhere. A chamber. It is cavernous. It is dark. Strange, bisected statues of stratified minerals line the cathedral-like walls and culminate at the far end before a yawning opening that empties into perpetual nothingness. On the floor, a length of unidentifiable metal caked in centuries of dust catches her eye. A glaive. Eris lifts it into her hand. Striations of red illuminate on its surface and throb like a heartbeat. The glaive's power feels faint, distant, and yet an ember of something terrible still burns within. "Where are you?" Eris whispers into the air. There is no reply. Suddenly, from both the flavor text and the lore tab, we can start to see something significant. This glaive, which Eris found abandoned for centuries, was a gift from Rulk to a disciple. And so I wonder, is it possible that this is exactly what Nezarec is? A disciple of the Witness? It would potentially make quite a lot of sense given the description of Nezarec as a god of pain. But then, there are a slew of other questions that we must ask. Firstly, why was the glaive left abandoned for so long? Secondly, can we put any credit to the idea of Nezarec's tombs existing? And thirdly, does Nezarec have an agenda that is so easily stated as being there when pain is caused or gaining some kind of power from pain? If so, we need to start asking a few more questions and to really understand what all of this might mean. Eris seems content enough to seek out the power of the being that is distant and tied to the glaive. It makes me wonder something that needs to be clarified as speculation, but I will lend it to you all the same because I don't see any harm in it. This is my theory. What if Nezarec was indeed a disciple at some point? And what if Nezarec then defected from the Witness's cause? A god of pain would desire the continuation of life, as pain exists across all life. Perhaps this would be cause enough to first take up the cause of the Witness, and then, when it seemed as though the Witness was about to wipe all life from existence, abandon it. If Nezarec was gifted a glaive, it would potentially have been a moment where Nezarec was trusted as a worthy disciple of the Witness. But if the glaive has been left abandoned for hundreds of years, something may have changed. It makes me wonder if these tombs of Nezarec are a testament to the final fate of this entity, whether they defied the Witness in search of more life to see pain inflicted on, and ultimately were brought low. No matter what the case may be, Eris would not seek them out without good reason, and the presence of a glaive alone is a fascinating enigma that in this context is bound to hold significance in some manner. At very least, I feel safe in believing that there is a tangible link between Nezarec and the disciples of the Witness. Whether this is the case or not is something to still be uncovered, but it is our best lead so far. Who is Nezarec? Will we find out? It's unclear. But in these last few seasons, a pattern has emerged. We first fought against Rulk in the Pyramid, who was leading the assaults on Savathun's throne world, and dethroned him, the first disciple of the Witness. This season, we are facing against Callus, a disciple of the Witness as well, one who is bringing the Cabal and Scorn forces above the Leviathan to bear and to fight against us. There are others in the Dark Future Lawbook who allied themselves with the Witness's cause, namely, beings such as Eramis. If this is a trend and a pattern, and if we do see Eramis rise as a third disciple, who's to say we wouldn't be able to interact with a fourth? We have no idea who a fourth disciple might be, but it's entirely possible that the name Nezarec might come up again, and it might not be such a long wait this time. We'll have to see. In the meantime, though, thank you so much for watching, and I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like, and let me know your own thoughts and speculation on who Nezarec is down below. What do you reckon? Do you think there's any credible note about them potentially being a disciple? Do you think that they did abandon the cause of the Witness? Do you think that they're still loyal to the Witness? What are your own thoughts? I'm intrigued to know. This is a really open-ended piece of lore, and I don't think anyone truly has the answers. Of course, also remember to hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe if you want to keep up with these videos. There is a lot more content coming out from everything this season, so I'm really excited to see what's going on. But, of course, as per usual, know that your viewership is quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Parodacia Arastra. I'll see you, Starside.